illumignostic, fresh from the brink of death. You can still see the like chunk of missing skin there on my face and my eyebrow from where I I went outside to pee in the middle of the night. I was super sick, and I've never in my life have I passed out before, but I thought I'm gonna vomit. And I felt really faint, and I started to kneel. And the next thing I knew, I was like face planted into a pile of boulders. Yeah, so that was kind of the culmination of my week. There's a lot of other stuff going on too, but yeah, first and foremost, I guess I should let you guys know. Obviously, I'm alive. We really don't know what's going on yet. Chagas seems to be less of a possibility, even though they can't explain to me why I have exposure levels and I'm not infected. Like, what does that mean? How did that happen? Thank you for hitting the like button, by the way. Um, and tested negative for dengue, which was a total waste of money because I knew that. I am feeling a little bit better, and I'm pounding down a special blend of plant medicine consisting mostly of Mimosa pudica, um, because it has antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, immune boosting. It's just all around great. With psilocybin mushrooms of a certain strain, and ayahuasca leaves, and uña de gato, and all of these sort of really beneficial plants. So I think at this point, because the doctors aren't really giving me any decent answers, it's kind of just me in the jungle against whatever's left of this malady. I was going to bust out the microphone and do this properly tonight, but my computer has lost its mind. So if you're wondering about the sound quality and the fire extinguisher behind me and everything, just last minute. I was almost done typing up the description, really lengthy one for the live stream I was going to do, and it just turned off and I lost everything. So just jumped on the phone to do a quick update because some pretty interesting things happened while I was sick. And those things have quite a range from an ayahuasca experience that I had when I have not drank ayahuasca in several weeks. And it was like full on, like jaguars walking around on the ceiling, spirit beings, the whole thing. Imaginary music that I could hear. Just it was like produced like prog psychedelic prog metal, vocals, drums, bass, the whole thing. Like everything was done. It was a finished track, playing on a speaker that sounded suspiciously like the one that I actually use during ceremonies. So it was as if, and this is, I'm kind of chalking it up at the moment to an actual visit from Pachamama without ayahuasca. Like she just slipped in through the window or something. And I'm going to tell that story in more depth sooner or later, but I just want to mention all of this stuff. And then tomorrow, when I have a proper setup, I'm going to go into a lot more depth. Um, but then also, we have a lot of really, well, no, let's keep it on the positive track before we get into all that. Um, what's another thing? Oh, while I was laid up in bed sick, I've been making this tea that is, not strongly psychoactive, but it does contain psilocybin and ayahuasca leaves and sometimes chalipongo. So there's psychoactive constituents, and it really gets the mind going. And I was laying in bed uh, thinking about the symbolism of the Philosopher's Stone, which, if you're not familiar, is a square with a triangle and a circle inside of it. And, it kind of eluded me for years. Like, symbolism at first was difficult for me to wrap my head around, at least of that nature. But I really started to connect it to this idea that came to me on San Pedro many years ago, that I at the time called pi squared, but now has evolved into pi cubed. And pi is the circle, um, the cube is the square inside, but the three also represents the triangle. And the perimeter, being the circle, goes on for infinity. But that infinity is only possible because of the nothingness in the center. So it's like this nothing defines and gives uh, existence to the totality of infinity. So, we've gotten into some pretty deep stuff before we even get past the first layer of the symbol, right? And then, so, we have the cube, which has all kinds of layers of symbolism that people know. And I'm not going to go into it in too much detail here because we're going to talk about this again. But I just want to touch on these things before we really start doing the deep dives. Another aspect of it, I guess, is the number four, and the four directions, the four elements. There are four main archangels. There are four fundamental forces of physics. So as you go around the side of the cube, you realize that these 4 points on each face can represent those four fundamental forces of physics, the four elements, the four archangels, and so they all have different modalities, the cube, depending on which face you're looking at. And then the 3 points on the triangle are the guiding principles, the wave, the will, the operating the organizing principle is a good way to put it. And they're the 3 eyes, the 3 points of the triangle: intelligence, intuition. My internet's a bit wonky, of course, which is going to be fixed, by the way, when we move, which is definitely happening. I don't know how much of this you guys have missed. Okay, so let's try to stay on track, though. So we're going to go into a lot of depth about that, but we're also going to talk about how these symbols, and they're constructed correctly, grow in their depth and substance and poignancy over time. Because when the first, hey man, how's it going? When it's first conceptualized, the 4 elements or the 4 directions, they didn't know there were 4 fundamental forces in physics, but they were still representing each, any one of these 4 points. You know what I mean? It all overlaps. So as we extend our awareness and gather new information and knowledge, the symbols develop greater poignancy and power. So we're going to talk about that in a lot more detail. Let's see, what else did I have on the list? So I mentioned the ayahuasca experience with no ayahuasca. That was completely crazy. Never in my life have I experienced anything like that. The flashback theory has been disregarded by psychedelic researchers completely as like a wives' tale. In fact, a lot of people consider, including myself, what is it called? Where you have hyper persistent perceptual disorder because of psychedelics. Usually, maybe not always, but most of the time, it seems to me that this is a case of people having expanded their consciousness where they had thought that their life was just going to go back to normal after psychedelics, but that's not what happens. And so it freaks them out, and they think that they have broke their brain or something, and it's like, no, you just have a greater perceptual sweep. And people aren't really expecting that. When people talk about expanding your consciousness, and this is something that I don't know that I've really mentioned before, but I think when I say that, people might think I'm leaning more heavily on the woo than I really mean to, because what I'm actually saying is that your perceptual sweep is broader and more fine-tuned. That's largely it. So you have a much greater capacity to understand vibration, to perceive connections, and the total impact of that is a sort of transcendental state that lasts. So I think it's kind of difficult and something we have to learn to get better at addressing, for people in our sort of deterministic, totally material culture, uh, uh, people, I think a lot of people are suffering unnecessarily, because they're just, the psychedelics are working, and it just freaks them out because they think they've damaged themselves. Because your consciousness does actually expand. It's a real thing. By the way, you guys, do me a favor and hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us. So you can find options in the description below. Um, it is true that all of the trips to the city and medical expenses haven't stopped. Really, it's like a sledgehammer to the head right now. It's ugly, and now the computer's on the skits, and we have to, because we have, thank you, because we have already paid the deposit to have the retreat here, which we'll not get back, I'm sure. I'm not even going to ask for it, actually. I have to pay again to host the retreat at the new place. So we're really just getting beaten up right now. And it seems really inappropriate because I was just all full of positivity and momentum, and then things just went absolutely apeshit crazy with this. It's just such a simple little thing, a bite on the lip. It hurt like hell. Like, and when it happened, that's the weirdest thing too. And when it first happened, there was no pain. It was just like this weird bump. And by the end of the day, it was like kind of big. And then I started getting these like stabbing, fire, kind of throbbing, burning sensations. And then that pain was throughout my whole body. My head's beating open. So we thought I had Chagas disease, which turns out I've been exposed to it, so it's not off the table. I guess we'll go through all that now. And then this new doctor, because I was mad at the other one because he didn't put Chagas on the list. The bug that spreads Chagas bites on the lip, and I had all the symptoms. So, and then I didn't test, I tested negative, but I have been exposed because I have antibodies. So it's weird. I don't really trust the results. Thank you, FLD. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But then they tested me for dengue. Clearly, I don't have dengue. It would have been over a long time ago anyways. So here's the crazy thing, you guys. I have an autoimmune problem, and it's possible that this bug just had a small amount of some kind of venom that was just weird because it's the Amazon rainforest. And it wasn't even the toxicity. It's just that my immune system doesn't function properly anyways. So when this new thing entered it, it just went completely apeshit and started attacking me and the thing. So at this point, almost all of my tests are completely normal. I still don't feel 100% well, but I'm back open for, I had to cancel some consultations and stuff this week. I'm totally available for all of that, starting tomorrow, I guess. So yeah, okay, so let's have a little snapshot of like what was happening to me, right? So, and not just me, the whole world, like what it looked like to me. I have a guest here it was a one-on-one retreat, and I get the bite, and that's not a big deal, but then I have like pain shooting through my body, and I'm completely exhausted, but I have to take care of him, there's nothing I can do. And so I have to go through ceremonies, and he had a really hard time, and I had to be fully present with like flaming pain going through my entire body and throbbing headache, and it was intense, man. So I think that was like the last 8 days that he was here, something 7 or 8 days, and it worked out, but then I just collapsed at the end of that stretch, and so what was the first other crazy thing that happened? So they started shooting down weather balloons or spy balloons. And then they shot one down and they said, okay, it's a spy balloon or something. And then they shot another one down and they refused to even describe it. They would not, no description even. And then was there a third one? I don't even know. But I knew this was an indicator of some kind of problem. Whether it was staged or whatever people are saying, I don't care. It's still a charade, even if it's staged. This is an indicator of other shady activity. So details, the devil can deal with the details. Um, you know what I mean? So that starts happening, and then when the last one was shot down, I heard that China responded that there will be consequences, and then like 2 days after China says that, the train explodes full of chemicals in Ohio. And it seems funny to me that Ohio, of all the, it's just become like such a cliche to just, you see like a mutated dog on uh, on YouTube, and they're like normal dog from Ohio or whatever. Like, I, anyways, so that happened, and then there was an explosion of, what was it, a like a mechanical plant or something, and then a uranium producing pit or whatever catches fire. All, what was it, like a week or something that all this happened, 2 weeks. And I'm not trying to be like fear monger, but I'm all about facing the world like just totally naked and unafraid. Take the bull by the horns, look it in the eyes. You know what I mean? You have to know what's going on. Yeah, it seems like there was a whole lot of foreshadowing on Ohio. It's just seeming a little bit odd to me. I don't know. Generally not actually a conspiracy theorist, because I think it's bigger than conspiracies. It's about managing the thinking of the population and the size of the population, all that stuff. Sure, that happens. But I think most of the conspiracy theories, people believe they have specific information, are almost all entirely or mostly false. And that I'm actually nearly positive of on most of them. Um, Yeah, a week of mathematical improbabilities, all with bad portents in terms of World War III. My opinion, and what I was going to say before I went on that sidetrack, was that, in my opinion, basically, World War III has already started. There's no question at this point. Um, Look at the types of the chemical explosion, the manufacturing plant, especially the manufacturing plant, and the uranium thing. Those are targets. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to try to blow that off as a coincidence, you might want to take an IQ test and get yourself figured out, because it's not. So all that's happening, right? And I'm kind of like watching it, going, "Oh shit," because we're all hanging on to like a little ray of hope, even if we know it's not really, that they're not going to start raining nukes on the planet everywhere or whatever. None of us want to see a massive global war. But after the last week of explosions and highly targeted, targets or whatever, like, it just, I can't. Um, I just can't do enough psychological gymnastics to act like it's not that. Uh, so that's happening, and then one day my partner comes down to our little cabin by the river, which is like paradise. There's crystal clear river behind it, and there's tons of gold. Like, today I just dug one pan in this corner, and there was like an incredible amount of gold in it. Tomorrow I'm going to dig a bunch more out and actually sluice it. Um, but that's why the banks and the Chinese want this property. It's loaded with gold. Um, but so it's just so perfect and idyllic. The jungle's right there. There's trails right behind the house. Never any sounds. You know what I mean? And we've made it our home because we expected to be here for a while. And my partner comes down looking a bit sour, and I was like, "What?" And she said, "Juan said that they haven't paid their mortgage in over a year, and the banks are foreclosing, and they're going to be here within a week." And here I am with people already booked, dying maybe, fucking world exploding, and I'm just going like, really? Really? On top of all this shit, like, all at once? There's that like cliche about when the shit hits the flies, or when the shit hits the flies. I wish it would hit them. Um, they wouldn't mind. Uh, when the shit hits the fan, it all flies at once, right? Yeah, something like that, man. So Luckily, though, the week before, a friend of ours had taken us out to the Blue Lagoon, and it just blew my mind. Like giant cascading waterfalls and all this white rock, and just it's just mind blowing. It you feel like you're in some like you know luxury, like somewhere that only really rich people should, you know what I mean? Like it just looks like so tropical, and the weather's perfect, and the waterfalls are so incredible, and the swimming depth is all perfect, and it just it's like this is really here. And it turns out there's a bunch of other stuff like that all around in that area, including like 100-year-old shaman that is supposedly, we have Mama Celia already, who's a like recently contacted person. Now we have a male, recently and barely contacted person. He's a shaman that lives up by the Blue Lagoon, and doesn't apparently come out of the jungle much. And I haven't met him yet. We've been talking to his son. Of course, I'm going to go out and drink with him and everything before we formally incorporate him. But his son just had such warm, and I have no questions about the authenticity of what this guy was saying about him. But he invited us out to that property, so we're gonna go there. But we did find a place to host the retreats that's not very far away from here. That's surrounded by all this incredible. I mean, it doesn't matter that much except for the financial stuff and whatever. So it's not a problem. Nobody's gonna have to change their plane tickets or anything. It just it was just a lot to have all this stuff happening at once, and I'm trying to you know process it meaningfully and figure out how to react in a sensible fashion. And when you're worried about whether you're even going to live or die anyways. I have a 3-year-old son. But then it's like, okay, so then I do live, and then World War III breaks out. No one's flying. What then? Like where, And the reality is, we just can't really do that. Oh yeah, and speaking of tough, when we were going out looking for an alternative lodge to rent, there's no problem there. Every single one of them, all of them, are empty, like totally ghost empty. There is no one here, anywhere. Like no one. And so when we're like, is this place available for rent? Like the whole thing? They're like, yes, yes it is, yes. It's just insane. There's no one anywhere. And the thing to think about there, I think, is that it starts at the bottom, which is kind of where we are. These are all, relatively poor Quechua owned. It's family land where the Quechua built, got loans from the bank on the land, which is how this place is getting or foreclosed. By the way, if you happen to be like super rich and you want to save this place, definitely get in contact with me, because it's amazing, and there's enough gold in the river that could be accessed without any environmental impact at all. You can fill the holes back in. You know what I mean? To pay the mortgage probably. And if not, I was offering anyone that by some astronomically improbable coincidence actually took me up on this, 30% of the retreat. And it's a gorgeous place. There's waterfalls on the property, and caverns, and petroglyphs from the Yumba tribe, which is pre-Inca, and just absolutely gorgeous and amazing. And it's horrific to think that the Chinese are just going to roll in here with bulldozers and destroy everything and tear all the gold up and leave. But that's what's about to happen. And it's difficult for me because I mentioned my own struggles with this crazy, random, unidentified illness over the last. It's been a month that I've been in this state. I'm better today than I have been, but I got better once before and it came back. So it's really nerve-wracking. I think this time I'm probably legitimately getting through it, and the plant medicine tea that I'm making is gonna kill it, whatever's left of it. So I do have some pretty strong confidence there. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to deal with all this stuff that's happening on a global level. And in fact, I don't even know if I'm going to survive this or not. Like the doctors were saying that when Enrica, my partner, mentioned to the doctors that I had this like ayahuasca trip um, um, without having consumed any ayahuasca, they were worried that the parasites had gotten into my brain, and they wanted me to go hours away and get a brain scan and make sure that. I don't know. I'm not going to try to tell some doctor that don't worry. I think it was actually just a visit from Pachamama, unannounced and uninvited, because I just needed it. It was crazy. That's the only explanation I can come up with. It was so real, and I didn't have a puff of a joint, nothing, absolutamente nada. Uh, I'm saving the details for the other live stream. Sorry, but man, um, I was in disbelief for the first like hour, and it lasted the entire like 4 or 5. I got no sleep. I had 2 hours of sleep that night because just ayahuasca decided it was just gonna happen. That's good, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't smoke marijuana anyways, but I'm just saying, like, there was nothing to precipitate any kind of pseudo psychedelic experience at all, and it was full blown ayahuasca. Except that it was muted. The colors were not nearly as bright, and the geometries and stuff. It was muted, but still. I mean, the first thing that I um, noticed was that I thought something about a jaguar, and a jaguar head kind of came out of the ceiling and kind of turned, and it was kind of cartoony, and I was like, what? And then I realized that all around it, I could see the jungle or something like a jungle, like the DMT entity version of a jungle or whatever. Uh, like I said, I want to save the rest of that for. But I'm trying to deal with all this stuff, and and then we have the landowners here, like basically like, you're our only hope. Um, and so what they were thinking is that maybe um, I could make enough money that they could catch up on their mortgage before the bank actually foreclosed. The thing that I'm not happy about is that I should have been told that that was the game that we were playing. Um, there's things I could have done differently. I could have deliberately created and marketed like a super high end version of this just to try to raise the funds or something, or just like a fundraiser style, or you know what I mean? Like that, I'm pretty unhappy about. They should have just told me that it was. I knew they were in trouble, but I didn't. I had no idea it was this bad. So, but still, I'm like on death's door. Fucking world's exploding, and then also I have a family of 5 that's like, you didn't save us, basically. Ancestral land. It, what are you gonna do though? I mean, yeah, it's a bit dramatic. The whole thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Like I said, you guys, this isn't the real live stream. This is just a teaser for the real, because she made such a great thumbnail, and I had such a great title, and that's another thing. Our computer might have to be replaced now, and it's like I just got, my head crushed by the medical stuff and travel expenses. I can't also buy a laptop now and move the retreat. I can't do all that. I can't do all this shit. Maybe I can. I don't know. I mean, I'll like put it out there and see, but it just seems like tall order. And they're still trying to get me to save the property somehow. I don't know. I don't know what that means. It would mean that someone would have to buy it. If somebody, even if someone paid off I think almost $70,000 that they need, they still have to pay a $5,000 a month loan, and I could potentially get this retreat to that point if we had the right marketing and uh, like some more staff and stuff. But I'm not really trying to do that. That's the whole point of my thing, is that I'm not trying to be like corporate ayahuasca and industrialized ayahuasca where there's 40 people, and it needs to be personal and small and close, and everyone needs to take time to get to know each other, and like it's not the way things are done at Rhythmia and all of these big places it's not good. And I'm not at all surprised that in the last few months there has been a lot of stuff coming out about how there's like run by cult like people, and there's tons of psychological and sexual abuse and all this stuff. And I mean, how could you not see that with all this phony, narcissistic, trendy, like, I mean, it baffles me because I don't fall for it, I guess. I see right through it. Um, but man, and people will attack you for mentioning it. In ayahuasca group, someone asked, like, I'm booked for Rhythmia soon, and, what should I do before I go? And I was like, well, be careful. From what I hear, that's the first thing that you should be aware of. Don't let yourself go into a room with any of the employees alone or whatever. I mean, yeah, I used to hear good things about Soul Quest in Orlando. I haven't. That's the first negative implication of anything that I've seen. But the really big ones are pretty bad. I mean, yeah, and just because of what ayahuasca is, to have groups that large and lacking in intimacy and stuff, it's just not. It's not. It just doesn't work. Um, Really, you know, in the old days, only the shaman drank the ayahuasca, and then he worked on the person while he was on ayahuasca. But if there was a situation where someone other than the shaman was consuming the ayahuasca, which did happen in some tribes, um, well, you could even say many tribes, but definitely wasn't the standard. The standard was just that the shaman, the most common thing was that the shaman drank the ayahuasca. No one else did. Um, and so, but if the other person did, the shaman knew them since they were born and knew their parents and knew about all their traumas, their whole history and everything. It happens very often that people are too embarrassed to tell me the truth about something that happened to them or something that they've done. But then once the medicine starts and the magic starts to get to them, they can't lie anymore. So it all comes out. And then I discover that I have someone that, lied about being schizophrenic, or, somebody that's done something terrible, or, you know what I mean? And the thing is, in a traditional setting, that can't really happen because the shaman knows, you know. Another one fairly recently is that I was told by someone they had had some minor depression several years ago, but when he actually got here in the second ceremony, it came out that he'd actually had a suicide attempt a week before he arrived. Um, so it's really, really common that people are just embarrassed, I guess, and they don't know you yet. So they don't tell you things, and then you get blindsided by people that, and it's not necessarily even that I would say no, particularly this suicide attempt person, but I would approach everything differently. It just gives me the ability to approach it correctly and make sure that everyone's safe and gets exactly what they need, you know? So that's a bit of advice. Don't lie to your shaman or facilitator, no matter how bad it is, you know? If it's a real shaman, they know that yeah, I am you. What are you but my reflection? Who am I to judge or strike you down? You actually think that, you know? So it's not like an act. That's what you literally think if you're really, really a shaman, you know? And so there's no point in lying. It doesn't matter. Nothing to be embarrassed about. So did I miss anything from the I think I mentioned when I passed out and fell on my face. I think that was like the climax of the illness. Really rude experience to just, and also I was peeing, so I was like face planted in the rocks I was peeing on, and I couldn't get up. Like I was just like butt in the air, face smashed into the rocks, middle of the night in the jungle, like just stuck for probably like Yeah, I mean, it would be good to protect this land somehow, but what I have to worry about at the moment, unfortunately, really is mostly, my guests and the retreat and moving forward. And, if I had been made aware of, no, illness is not nothing awesome, but if I had been made aware of it, I would be a little bit more empathetic. The thing also, I mean, I am, trust me, it's not a fun thing to witness. Very nice people, the kids are great. Um, and it became our home too. The animals, with the coati and the dogs, and you know, bit of a shock. And then today, they were supposed to go to Quito and argue with the bank and get an extension formalized, and they did not contact us to say what happened. So I'm almost certain that they did not get an extension, and we might have to. I mean, it doesn't really matter to us because we have our property ready. We just call a moving truck and go. I mean, it's 25 minutes away. Um, the only issue would be if the bank came and roped it off before, while we weren't home. I don't know if we could get back in to retrieve our stuff. Uh, so that wouldn't be good. Crazy, right? It's crazy. And the reality is, unless some come back to Laytonville, I actually kind of want to. I'm going to try to come back to California in August to do some ceremonies in Santa Cruz. Um, I love California. The Amazon rainforest is like my second home, but I think the NorCal coast is probably, I mean, not so much specifically Laytonville, but the NorCal coast is probably my favorite place in the world. It's hard. That's a tough choice. Yeah, you can come see me in California. Um, yeah, I'm trying for August. Well, one of the reasons, honestly, is just I love picking all the gourmet mushrooms in the fall. I used to love growing pot too. Now I don't really care as much because I don't really care to smoke it. But I used to love growing, pine tree sized hybrids that I created too. It was always something that, plants when I bred my own strain. That was always really cool. Yeah, it's true. The Pacific Northwest is the Amazon of North America. And like I said, it's a hard call, man. There's just so much here that's so interesting. One of the features of Ngaru in particular that's kind of nice is that the blue morpho butterfly, which is the one that has the really blue iridescent, it's like this big, size of my whole entire, bigger sometimes, and just so bright blue. And they're different every like kilometer. It's like the genetics don't move much, I think. So they have like certain size and general pattern and certain characteristics in a very small area. You know what I mean? And you only have to go like down the street and around the corner, and it's different. And here, they're giant and they have the most iridescent, unnatural looking blue I've seen anywhere in the Amazon rainforest. It's like this blinding flash of. I saw it out the window one morning, I didn't even understand what could be happening out there, because it's just so otherworldly and just insane. Um, the other day too, some kind of eagle or something. I don't know what it was, honestly. Just big old bird of prey landed on the rock behind our house in the river and grabbed a fish out of the river and was eating it. And um, today the coati followed us down to the river, and it's like there's this coati like flopping around in the water with my son. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even know what the hell that was. I knew what a quadamundi was, I guess. Um, I mean, I knew of them, I guess. I knew that they existed in some sense, but I didn't immediately know what it was when I saw it. They're really just odd animal. And it's just such a bizarre thing to I was down there panning and stuff, you know, and it's just like hanging or climbing on my back, and uh, it's a marvelous place, you know. The Amazon in general, but Ngaro as well, and it's not fun to think that this family's going to lose it, and the Chinese are going to end up stripping it for gold, but we have to do something about it, you guys. It's serious. I mean, I know a lot of people say that the environmental movement is a conspiracy theory and it's just the left trying to take everybody's money or something, and that's just dumb as a bag of dicks. I mean, the Amazon rainforest is disappearing for sure, and they are trying to make you eat bugs. But because, like, come down here and start walking in the cattle fields that have been clear cut from the Amazon, and see when they stop. Like, never. And it's cool because you can pick mushrooms out of the cow patties all day without running out, for miles, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, until you realize that it's all clear cut rainforest for cattle, all of it. So eat crickets, you know what I mean? Unless you want to be depopulated, just eat some cricket chips and shut up, you know? I mean, really. I think what people have to realize is that we have to make some degree of compensation for the wanton excesses of our ancestors and even ourselves in our younger, more ignorant days. You know, you can't. There's an element, like a lot of the uh, environmental deniers, I guess. I'm not talking about climate change. There's like this lack of an understanding of cause and effect. That, you know, if there is a cause, there is an effect, and it's unavoidable. It's absolutely certain, you know. And I don't think you can destroy an ecosystem like the Amazon rainforest and have other ecosystems all around the planet. It will cause a toppling of dominoes. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but between that and oil and yeah, chicken. Okay, what? Yeah, chicken. There you go. I mean, maybe that's a little better. Um, you know, if you're gonna eat meat and you have land, raising your own animals is like a huge thing you can do if you really hate the idea of eating crickets. Um, but you know, if you listen to what like the WEF is saying and stuff, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying I support these people, but you know, they're saying like either we, in order to keep the planet alive, we either have to get rid of a whole bunch of them, or they have to eat crickets and shit because this is not sustainable. I mean, you might not like it, but they're not wrong. And I see it, you know, down here in the Amazon all the time. The rainforest just vanishing everywhere. And like I said, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I do know that you need to smash the like button, subscribe, support us. There are options to support in the description below. Um, but yeah, between the Chinese destroying the water with mercury from the mining, which I don't really even understand why they, you know, the mercury should be evaporated off of the gold in order to, because the mercury causes the gold to bond or to collect, to coagulate, and then you heat it and it evaporates. I don't know why it ends up in the river, like why they do that, and it's probably because they just don't give a fuck. They have a lot of illegal mining operations here, and so what's happening is that, you know, Warani kids downstream in Garena will go to take a bath and they'll just wash their skin right off and die. That's what the mercury does. It causes this like sloughing condition where the skin just comes right off of people. And the oil companies, you know, they'll just bust a pipeline open on Warani territory and refuse to clean it up, just do nothing. And there's just Warani out there just trying to like shovel all this oil somehow just out of their. It's crazy. It's just no one cares. Like the government of Ecuador doesn't care at all. The Chinese have paid off everyone. No one's stopping anyone from doing it. And now that the economy has this stranglehold on it from the fear of World War One and COVID and all of this stuff. It's allowing the banks to snatch up all the land um, just by foreclosing, and then sell it to the Chinese, who then will come in and harvest all of the gold and other minerals. And I'm literally like sitting on a chunk of rainforest right now that is about to happen to. It was funny for a little while when we first moved here. I could almost tell myself that it wasn't that bad because I was like, wow, we can drive around all over the place, and I don't ever see clear cutting. I mean, there's little spots that they take out to put bananas and stuff, but after about a year, it started to actually crash down into our neighborhood and stuff. The illegal miners would come, and our water would just stop working. We had guests, and our water would just stop because the Chinese would just plug into the main supply and take all the water from the indigenous community. And then when they were done washing the gold in the morning and they needed to leave, they would unplug it and plug it back in, and then we could have water again until they came back the next day. So that's why, if you're wondering why the indigenous are blocking off highways and having all these protests, and that's why, they're basically like, if you're not going to allow us to live, we're not going to allow you to function either. It cost me everything, really. Our first season, the protests were like right in the peak of our thing, and it doomed us, but I have to support it anyways, because who can argue with that? There was another element of that it makes it difficult to be here, and that is vegans. in in the vegan communities in Gualaquiza, the Shuar, who are arguably the most warlike tribe in the Amazon, were mining illegally on their ancestral land, that the vegans had just bought, and they tried to tell them to stop. And the Shuar showed up the next day with shotguns and just beat everyone up. And I was kind of like, if I was here, I would have been on the Shuar side. Sorry, guys. All day long. I mean, who are you? And they would also complain that they were hunting animals on their ancestral land. Like, they would try to tell them to stop hunting animals on their ancestral land. Like, white vegans coming down here and trying to tell the indigenous they can't eat. Like, it's, please, if you're thinking about doing that, don't come. You're not helping anyone. Don't come, If you're, that entitled, and because people like me that are actually trying to help, they don't like us or trust us because of people that do shit like that. And it's also the exploiter mentality. A lot of people from the United States especially feel like people here are like they're entitled, that the people here should provide cheap labor and land and stuff for them because that's how it works. You retire and you can buy a cheap piece of land in South America and go exploit a bunch of brown people, and that's just how it is. And they will literally like tell you not to tip, because they'll start expecting it, and it's so nasty and pathetic. A lot of you guys probably know this story, but the reason we left the first property we were at was because of indigenous exploitation by the landowner. She came down in front of a client and said, by the way, don't pay them more than $15 a day, because if you do, they'll be coming around with their hands open all the time, expecting it, and just the like, what is the word, viscosity? Is that, no, that's not the right word. let's call it viciousness, I guess, vitriol in her voice. I mean, it was terrible, and I looked it up to double check, but that's $5 below the minimum wage. So this woman was like insisting that we participate in an exploitation economy. This is a plant medicine retreat, and you think we're gonna agree to pay them less than the legal minimum wage? Like, it's really common. It's really common. So, I mean, I'm not a person that's like opposed necessarily to capitalism, but there are definitely some things that need to be addressed. There's some habits and tendencies and some consequences of the mentality that has been promulgated and spread like a cancerous tumor all over the world, that needs to be fixed. Like, people need to start acting right, because it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating because the indigenous mostly have experienced that, from especially in a place like Ecuador that doesn't have the kind of tourism that Peru does, where they're more used to people that are, more progressive and tip, and they're just generally decent. Here, it's mostly there's a little bit more of an influx of other types of people, but it's largely like retired right wing people that feel like it's just how it is, that once you retire, you can go and just, you're entitled to live off of the poverty of other people, and to benefit from that. It's so, but regardless of that, I'm still doing what I can do, for my part. Sometimes it's not enough, like was almost certainly the case at Ngaru. Um, and, it's discouraging having to deal with the attitude towards foreigners that people that I don't have anything in common with have created. That's why I got away from them. I don't relate to their way of thinking. Even the more moderate ones, I generally can't really relate to. That's why I'm here. Um, but people generally, are assessing things in accordance with experience. And what you give is what you get. Well, unfortunately, what other people give is sometimes what you get. So one more time, guys, don't forget to hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us. Description options in the description. I'll be back tomorrow with a good microphone and pretty lights and a more coherent plot line. But I need to get some rest. By the way, if you guys are subscribers, if you're not subscribers, I don't know why you wouldn't be a subscriber. You should subscribe. But if you just post in the comments to my, I just post shit in the community section all the time. You post questions in there, and every now and then I peruse all that stuff, and I'll do an AMA where I'll answer a lot of the questions. I have a little pile of them, but a lot of them I don't really want to answer. I think I'm going to do it anyways, but it just really kind of puts me on the spot. Because there are questions that it could I mean, they're anyways, you'll see. if I decide to deal with those, and you heard me say that right now, you'll know what I meant. I don't want to be viewed as a person that has contempt for humanity. There's the 98% and there's the 2% that is family. You have to compartmentalize. I am not a member in good standing, but I have taken initiation in the past. And I was also a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Stella Matutina lineage. Um, yeah. Questions I don't want to answer. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll call it questions I don't want to answer, and I'll answer them anyways. Some of them, by the way, if you join the Discord, I've been saying this forever, but then I got sick for a month. But I'm gonna start doing streams. Why did I leave the Golden Dawn? Um, you know, mostly just a matter of distance. But I also, by their admission, had really just sort of burned through the curriculum. Um, Ukiah. Um, Burned through the curriculum, and there wasn't really much left for me to do. And I moved to California, and there were no local um, Discord, the app. Yes, sorry. What I was saying is that I have a Discord, and I've been meaning to start streaming there because the algorithm is not interested. Um, Actually, it's not true. If you read YouTube's services for creators, actually, it says that they're monitoring you all the time if you're a creator, and they can delete your channel for web searches, for things you say on other apps. So the truth is that nothing I say anywhere will keep me totally safe from having my channel deleted. Isn't that crazy? But they've told us that. And also, they're tracking what devices we're using by analyzing our keystroke style and speed, and what devices we're often near, and what other people we associate with a lot. And it was pretty creepy. Of course, it's in our best interest. They're just watching out for us. Uh, but anyways, I'm gonna do my secret streams in the Discord so I can actually start saying everything I actually think. Because this channel is pretty toned down. If I were really able to speak my mind, I can't do it. And I really feel kind of obligated to, because I honestly don't see my particular version of the narratives, I guess, present anywhere. Um, and I think it might be important. So it's really frustrating because my commitment and my drive for this channel has always been to be as authentic and um, yeah, the Discord group already exists, Osmatar. The link is in the descriptions of recent videos. I might not have put it in this one, but you can find it also in the community. Um, so yeah, when I realized I can't actually say, just like, what is the point, kind of, you know? I mean, there's a lot that I can say, but I really don't like having this muzzle of the algorithm. It's gotten me a couple times for nothing. Like, once it decides it doesn't like you, it's like really, really paying attention and looking for excuses to give you a strike. Or I can start pushing my luck again in a couple of weeks because my last strike will be 90 days old, and then I can get another one. So look forward to that. Maybe I'll even have like a 90-day strike me again party or something. And speaking of that, I don't think I mentioned, did you see the new Clinton associated, Epstein associated guy that killed himself, nailed to a tree with a rope tied around his neck with a knot in the back of the tree and a bullet in his leg and his head or something? Like, fucking, really? Like, they might as well just say it at this point, you know? fuck with us and we'll kill you. You know what I mean? I guess the thing is they have. They have. If you're paying any attention, if you're able to think your own thoughts to any extent, then you already have heard them say, in no indistinct terms, if you are a threat or you fuck with us, we will kill you. Because this was the craziest one yet. Dude's tied to a tree with a knot in the back of the tree, stabbed and a bullet hole in him, and it's a suicide. It's like literally impossible. There's no way that's real. Yeah, this one was, that's the, if you had any doubt left that there's something weird about that whole story, that all of these Clinton associate people are not really murdered, maybe some of them were actual suicides and accidents. Also, watch Wormwood. I can't believe I didn't mention that earlier. Even I didn't know the actual full story there. I'm actually going to try to contact this guy. I've known the story since I was a little kid, and it was when I first heard about MK Ultra. This military cat got shucked out of a window. I mean, well, I thought that he killed himself, but we knew that the CIA had given him a bunch of LSD. But the story was that he was given LSD without his knowledge, so he freaked out because he thought the building was on fire or something, and he jumped out the window. But it turns out he was thrown out the window. And they figured out that he broke the glass first, because, or that the assailants broke glass first because they exhumed the body. He had no lacerations. It's crazy. You should definitely watch it. It's worth watching. It's called Wormwood on Netflix. You know, and it just really, people have got to get this stuff through their heads. When they say they wouldn't do that, or it's too paranoid or ridiculous, just look at what's already happened. Like, it's like when a woman has an abusive husband that does this stuff over and over again, but she's always still saying he swore he's not going to do it again. I believe him this time. It's exactly that shit. The entire U.S. population almost, and it's so insane because just how much evidence do you need at this point? You know, it is crazy. And then something hit me that was even a bigger deal, really, and it's the yeah, he's changed. Yeah, he's gotten fucking worse. That's how that works. They only get worse, and it's, you know, this was 1953. And let's not even talk about who Nagasaki and Hiroshima. You know, they did that. I mean, burning the shadows of moms and dogs into the city sidewalks, hundreds of thousands. Come on, man. They wouldn't do that, or like, what do people think? My mind is blown by the idiocy of these goats. My apologies to all goats for comparing them to humans. Seriously, though, but even worse was when I realized that they mentioned Rumsfeld and Cheney as like way high up in the CIA in this documentary in 1953. And it hit me that the U.S. has had the same people, like at least Cheney and Rumsfeld, in its highest position of authority above presidents. Obama called it middle management. He wasn't joking, right? They can decide whether presidents live or die. I don't know who thinks they have a democracy when they also believe that JFK was executed. That doesn't make any sense. If you have an agency that will kill presidents they don't like, who doesn't like? Who is they anyways, you know? How do you have a democracy? Like, what is that? What is that? How, who the fuck can live with these kind of contradicting? Anyways, though, to think that Rumsfeld and Cheney have been in a position basically above the presidents in terms of clearance for like 60 years, they were running the U.S. That really was like a cinder block to the forehead. You know, these people are in positions of unlimited power. They took the CIA's, what is it, like reliability, or not reliability, liability, sorry, for legal They made them immune to legal prosecution for anything in 1954. So they can literally do anything. And they're unelected. And you have these guys that know whether they're aliens. They know who killed JFK. You know what I mean? The same guys pulling the strings. And I don't know, the documentary was 1953. So I don't know if Rumsfeld and Cheney were maybe even a little bit earlier when their careers actually started, like the 40s or something, and they were still there in the 2000s doing evil shit, like really obviously evil shit. 60 years at the top, not elected by anyone. You think that's a democracy? It's a fucking joke. Come on, man. People have to stop with this shit. You know, if I hear one more person say, if this continues, it's going to corrode our democracy, I'm going to vomit. Like, I'm going to vomit up my entire insides. Like, I'm going to be walking around with my guts dangling from my mouth hole, dragging through the Amazon rainforest, getting eaten by bullet ants and shit. And I'm not even going to care because my brain will have exploded. I can't take it anymore. I really can't. It's not even funny anymore, you know, because atrocities and wanton destruction and the loss of human life, but even more importantly, really, human potential has been astronomical and totally unnecessary. And it's literally all because of the cowardice of the common person. And it's not really their fault because they've been engineered to be that way. But we have to take our plant medicine and not with a bunch of, you know, light worker, new age, fluffy, narcissist, phony wackos for $12,000 a week somewhere. We're actually going to be willing to confront it all and stare the abyss dead in the face and be thrilled by it, you know. That's really what you're after. But that's what we need, you know. We need people that understand that enlightenment, illumination, higher consciousness, whatever you want to think about it, it's part of it is understanding is to become like he in whom suffering and glory are indistinguishable. The universal mind is here for the experience, good or bad, pretty or ugly, smooth or bumpy. Obviously. Good night. You know what I mean, though? We really, more than anything, we need to bring intelligence back. Intelligence needs to be sexy and important again. But courage is definitely discouraged. Don't discourage courage. I have to go. I've been talking for 68 minutes. No one's hit the like button in at least 3 minutes. And so the timer, ding, that's it. Also, the larger insects are starting to come out, and I've had enough of that to last me a while. But yeah, I got to go to sleep. So thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I'll be back tomorrow, a little bit more polish and some surprises for everyone. I guess the one benefit of being laid up in bed dying is that I've had egregious intelligence. I've had some time to really contemplate the mysteries, and it always surprises me because, you know, it's not like I think I know everything, but 40 years almost, really, I started contemplating this stuff literally as a child. My mind has been on one track since I can remember. It always, and if I have to deviate from it, it just naturally goes right back to the same track. But studying contemplation along these lines for most of my life, and I'm always surprised that, you know, a symbol like the Philosopher's Stone, for example, is so simple, that still to, you know, this day, I can just suddenly have like a deep revelation about all of these hidden things in this simple juxtaposition of shapes. So yeah, you guys, there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of fear if you let there be. But there's always a tremendous amount of mystery and potential for discovery and revelation. And the universe is, miracles aren't just possible. The universe is made of miracles. That was the real thing that the Grateful Dead were teaching people. Their improvisations, what they were doing is showing people that it's not just that miracles happen, they're reliable. You can make a career out of it. So, on that note, good night, you guys. Thank you so much.